Hi there, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, the podcast where I will be peeking behind the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week I'll be speaking to engineers, music industry professionals and musicians, and we will have a little chat with them and share some stories from the road, find out what it is that they do, and just have a good time. Now my next guest is an engineer and a good friend of mine. He works at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club, works for the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, the Dark Blues. He's recently assisted in the recording of the new National Youth Jazz Orchestra album, and it was a lot of fun talking to him. Please welcome my good friend Steve Long.
How you doing? You good?
Good, man. Hey, sound guy. How's it going? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's cool. Anytime.
Yeah, I know you've had a bit of a journey to get here.
Yeah.
But you're here now, and that's what's important.
A few planes and a few bolts.
Yeah. And a bit of jogging as well.
Yeah, thrown in.
Right at the end, just to bring it all home. How I like to start normally is if you could just introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, I've probably been a sound engineer now about 5 years. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. I work at Ronnie Scott's. I do the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, a few other clubs here and there, the Dark Blues, which you know well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably a bit different to most because I didn't start doing this till I was 28, 29.
Okay.
So I imagine that's a bit different to a few people.
Hey man, better late than never.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm loving it.
Yeah, it's a wonderful life, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's got its ups and its downs.
Yeah.
But the reward for and the energy that you get from a good show there's nothing like it.
Decent.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Just pull that mic up a little bit closer to you.
I'm a bit quiet.
Yeah.
Good sound engineer.
There, yeah. Not too high because then can't see you.
Yeah.
And want to
don't want to
miss that beautiful face. Right. So you say when you were 28, and you went to study sound engineering?
Yeah, well, 25 if I'm kind of studying.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a bit of a weird slide indoors moment. I'd always been into music since I was about 15, played guitar, played in bands. But it's weird, like, I'm from a small town. It's funny, like, I don't know any sound engineers, didn't really know any musicians. You don't really know it's something you can do. But I'd been getting into I had a little 8-track that I'd started getting in when I started getting into sound. Before, I didn't have a clue what to do, what I was doing. But my goal was to always try and just record tunes. I got really interested in studio stuff from the Beatles, mostly. I had a book called Revolution in the Head, and it's every Beatles song, how it was written, recorded. And from that, I just got really interested. I remember buying this 8-track, and I thought, well, I need to kind of find out how to use it.
Right.
But I had a weird moment where I bought a road bike, with the thin wheels.
Yeah.
I'd never really been on one, just to go to work and back. And the first day I had the bike, I lived on a hill. I was messing around with my backpack. I came flying off. I broke my hand, but I still got up, went to work, and basically the supervisor was a right twat, and he found out about it. And I used to drive the truck a lot. I was working a warehouse at the time, and he basically said, if you can't do all your jobs, you have to go home. And I said, I drive the truck. I said, I'm totally fine. So then he switched me to the heaviest lifting job in the warehouse. So obviously I had to go home. And I was off for about 10 weeks, bored out mad. You get about 70 quid to live off, which is just impossible.
Yeah.
But at the time, the Stone Roses had just reformed. So I was watching a lot of Stone Roses videos. And I stumbled across a video of Manny, who's the bass player. And he was getting interviewed at a place called the School of Sound Recording in Manchester. He was doing like a live interview for the students. I'm like, oh, what's that? And so I started researching it. And it turns out it was a working studio before they come like an educational thing. And basically the Storm Roses had recorded there. They'd done all the early demos. Sally Cinnamon was recorded there. 808 State, who were like a big Manchester dance band.
Right.
He'd all been there. And then just from that, I discovered you could do this course, Audio Engineering Techniques and Technology, which was for 3 years. So I ended up signing up.
Fantastic.
Basically. But because I was working, had bills to pay, I ended up having to do the night course, which is slightly longer. That's why it was 3 years.
Gotcha.
So I used to go twice, every Tuesday, Thursday, and then Saturday.
Right.
Whilst working 40 hours. So it was a pretty intense, but I loved it.
Great, man.
Because at that time I was like, oh God, what am I going to do with my life and all that nonsense that you do.
Right.
So it's there, so I blame. I probably wouldn't be sat here if I didn't fall off that bike.
Oh,
which is a bit
fantastic,
weird.
right? Yeah, serendipitous, right?
And I sold it straight away as well. That was my one and only journey.
That's the best one. Talking about getting on a bike, and Nick Foot, the handyman, he's got a friend in South Africa, and this guy apparently bought one of those crotch rockets, a proper super bike, and rode out of the dealership down this hill, and something happened where lost his balance, came off it, and at the bottom of this hill was an intersection.
Yeah.
And apparently he slid because he was going so fast. I don't know why you would just start straight off the bat by going 110 miles an hour, but whatever, And then he apparently, he slid underneath the wheels, in between the wheels of an 18-wheeler truck. So, he just missed it, him and the bike.
Wow.
He slid through, got on the other end, apparently got up, pushed it back to the dealership, and he's like, man, even if you give me 50 quid for this thing, I'm out. That's my riding career over.
Fuck yeah, that's lucky.
Right, so you're not the only one. Yeah, he's very lucky to be alive.
Well, my mum, I remember just thinking, just get up, because I just didn't want anyone to see me. I was probably up within 3 seconds.
Yeah.
and away. But it was only after, I was like, oh, fuck.
Oh, right.
And only a little bone, but I'd kind of put my hand out to drop my fall.
As you do, man.
Yeah.
So, did you have to go and get it x-rayed?
I think eventually once I got...
Once you got let go from work.
The worst part was the skin off the hand, actually. The bone wasn't... You don't really use that bit, do you? That, obviously, lifting.
I guess you can.
But I was only doing... I was on a little forklift, so
right.
I was fine. You only need your right hand.
That's right, yeah. And they've got the little balls on there as well.
Yeah.
I used to ride a bit of forklifts as well. I did... When I was crewing, I went and did my telescopic handler license.
Wow.
And yeah, I did quite a bit of that for events and stuff. Loads of things in Leicester Square, premieres and things.
Cool.
Where it's really tight corners and stuff. And that ball really comes in handy.
Turning thing.
Especially if you've got your the controls over here, and then you just with the one hand.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful with cornering too tight, too fast. I nearly went over once because I had my stupid. Just after 16 hours, you just want to get this truck loaded and get out of there. And I took a corner a little bit too fast with the forks up, and I kind of went whoa. Okay. That just kind of reset me a little bit, and I'm like, okay, let's just remember you're tired. Remember you've been working a long time. So concentrate just that little bit harder.
I remember some lad, he didn't realise he'd left the forks up. He went driving in through the door. He went straight through.
I've seen that video.
I've seen loads like that.
Oh man! Actually, that happened when I was working in America, when I was doing the harvesting stuff after high school. There was this guy who was just every accident that could happen happened to this guy. But also, I think he wasn't quite in the here and now all the time, and that's probably why. And he was in our boss's storage warehouse, and the boss had a forklift, and he was driving with it inside the warehouse with the forks up, and he took out 3 roof beams, and the roof nearly came down. And this guy, I mean, once we were in Colorado, and how they do there is they've got they talk about farm fuel, and it's a dyed diesel. They probably do that here as well. It's like a red dyed diesel, which because you're a farmer or they get it at a reduced price.
Right, yeah.
Because you use so much of it, planting, tractors, trucks, all these things that you use for farming. So it's a reduced price. Anyway, and this fella, we were it was quite a big field. It was a 2 mile by 1 mile field, and it was right next to his house, and he had these two 11,000-gallon tanks of this red fuel.
This is not going to end well, is it?
And so this guy with the combines, the tables, we call them, is like those heads that they've got that's got the combs that comb all the grain in, and then it's got the scissors, or they work like scissors, but they're called blades or knives. I can't even remember. Anyway, and this thing's 36 foot wide, right? And it's got these steel sort of points at either end, which sort of like just herds everything into the and he again just turned too quickly, and these two things are side by side, and he comes in like that, and as he goes, that steel point goes into that tank, and it's just, and he panics, and he pulls back on the hydrostat, which is that makes you go forward and backwards. He pulls back on the hydrostat. As he comes out of it, he knocks the tap off the second one. Right, so now there's 22,000 gallons of diesel leaking into this guy's field, right? So that's ground contamination and everything. And my mate Yaku, he had this brilliant idea. He's like, let's just burn it.
22.
Oh my God, bro. I don't think I've ever seen a fire as big.
Wow. I thought you were going to say that was just a silly
idea.
That's what you did.
We actually, well, I was still combining, but they actually set that shit on fire, man. It's yeah, a lot of cowboyery that went on there, right next to his house as well.
In America as well,
built out of wood. Can you imagine if this guy's fucking house burnt down? Yeah, that was
that's a bad day at work.
Jesus, man. Yeah, no, this guy and he the other time we've got these smaller trucks that's got the tipper beds, so they you empty it out the back, but it's got a hydraulic system that pushes it out, and it tips the whole bed up and then everything out. You've probably seen that, right? Anyway. And this guy, again, he pulled the yoke up too quickly, and this thing went all the way up with a full load of corn, and the truck just went over backwards. Damaged, like, yeah, our boss didn't.
Was he unsackable then?
He didn't get him back.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
The next season, he wasn't there anymore. I mean, I wasn't there anymore either. I came to England. But yeah, that was.
He did well to survive the first one, really.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just everything happened to this guy. But yeah, I mean, my mate Yaku as well with his good ideas. Yeah, that guy was another one. He once broke both his wrists at the same time, just driving down the roads. I mean, we kind of grew up rough. On the farms and stuff, and played really rough, and did. But they had a VW van. His friend did. They sawn the roof off, so it's this open top VW van, and that was just like to go around on the farm and just drive around. And his mate was driving, and he was holding onto the windscreen, and every time they go over a little hump, it would jump, and his mate thought it'd be funny to slam on the brakes as he was in the air. And then he went, and like that, and he broke both his wrists at the same time. Among other things, nearly cut his foot off with a chainsaw once, and like by accident.
Stay well away from him.
Shot himself in the hand with a 22. Yeah, brilliant. Right, sorry, we digress. You studied, you did the night course. This was in Manchester, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
Basically, I had to get on. I'm from Burnley, so it's about 22 miles, something like that.
Okay, it's not too far.
It's not that bad, but it's about an hour and a half on the bus.
Okay.
Everybody hates the bus from Burnley.
Everybody hates the bus, period.
Yeah, but we've finally got the train line. They removed it in the 70s, much to the great wisdom. Oh. But they reinstalled it like 3 months after I finished. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was brilliant of him. But yeah, so but I loved it because, to be honest, I didn't really know
anything about it.
Anything really.
All right.
There was quite probably about 20 of us. I was probably the second oldest as well, which I was for a night because I was quite surprised. But because you didn't get any funding, you had to pay.
Yeah.
A lot of the course was like 18-year-olds who mum and dads have paid, and they just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So, but I just got my head down and I just loved it from day one. I still love going. Even I'd done 8 hours shit job unloading bathrooms, and I just couldn't wait to get there, and I just went for it.
That's great, man. And you know, now you're living it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So,
but it's funny because I never actually even thought about being a live sound engineer. That
was always studio.
That was studio, and I even really enjoyed post production. A lot of the TV because it was kind of, you did 12 months core audio. It was called, learning about EQ compression, and then you did you got split into, then you did 8 months in the studio. They had an Eve 88 that had been used for the Beijing Olympics. Really nice studio at the top of the building. Then we did 8 months post production, then 8 months live. And to be honest, the live was probably the least, to be honest. Yeah, but it's funny how
it's funny how it works.
Yeah,
myself as well. When I went to study, when I had my eye on doing this so I can go work in a studio. That was that was the dream.
Yeah,
and I mean, I've said this before. There was our very last module. There was I only did a 2-year foundation degree.
Right.
And the last module, we had a few choice modules, and one of the choices were work experience.
Right.
And I wanted to go for that, but everybody else wanted to do sound for film.
Yep.
So I got outvoted, and I went.
Gutted.
But I I just went to my tutor, Joe Clancy, great guy. I think I owe him my whole career, to be honest with you. But I went to him. I said to him, "Listen, if you've got anything, even off the books, I don't care. If you sort me out, that'd be great." And he phoned me. No, he didn't phone me. He pulled me after class one day. He's like, "I've got something for you." And it was a gig with NYJO, National Youth Jazz Orchestra.
Oh, nice.
Which was great. And
was that how you met everyone?
That's how I met.
That.
Yeah, I met Tim on that gig, and I keep saying, that it's fate. Like like you said, your thing, falling off a bike, and that started this whole journey.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it was only meant to be helping out because Miles couldn't be there, and in that time, it was basically just Miles and Tim doing the sound. There were 2 guys that were like drivers,
right?
And nobody else was available. And luckily for me, Tim was under the weather. He had a very, very bad cold, flu.
Wow.
And when it came to gig time, he said to me, "Do you think you can mix the gig for me? I'll just have a little nap because I'll drive back." Because at that stage I was still 24, so I couldn't drive the van. So he went and had a nap and sort of wandered over halfway through the set, and he was very complimentary. And Bill was very happy. Miles' dad, Bill Ashton, and I mean they basically started booking me in straight away after that, which was great. And when I finished my degree, I finished in April, and Bill gave me a ring, and he said, "Listen, why don't you head on over to..." Because at that stage I hadn't met Miles yet,
right?
And he's like, "What?" 'Cause I'd just been working with Tim all that time, or I'd been doing solo gigs,
for the smaller bands.
the smaller ones, like the one they do in the Ruislip cricket or the Ruislip football place.
Football. It's
the Sunday
FC.
Yeah, the Sunday gigs. Sunday lunch gigs. Or there used to be one in something George in Chiswick where they did it as well, sort of every now and then. So I did those, and I cut my teeth. Anyway, so he said to me, "Why don't you head over to Ronnie Scott's and meet Miles, have a chat. Maybe they've got something for you." which I'm still very thankful for. I had to Google Ronnie Scott's because I
never heard it.
No, I didn't.
It's a funny one, isn't it? People either love it or they've never heard it. It's not like
I mean, I've got nothing against it. I didn't grow up to be into jazz. For me, it was always rock and roll, heavy metal, all these sorts of things, classical blues. Yes, I think for me the thing I didn't understand jazz.
right.
And I thought it was just, I don't know. And I think probably maybe most of the jazz that I'd heard was contemporary jazz and free jazz, where that's quite an acquired taste. It's still not my thing.
Stuff, yeah.
But so I was kind of like, well, I tried that, and But then now I've obviously I've learned to appreciate it, and I like it. I understand it more now.
I think particularly the 50s and 60s stuff I've really got into, because I'd never really heard that much.
Yeah.
I think I had Brubeck Take 5 on my iPod. That was about it.
Yeah.
But some of the modern stuff, that is not for me.
So when you did your degree, was it a degree or is it a diploma?
It was an advanced diploma.
Right.
I could have made it a degree, but I had to pay an extra $3,000. And as I was funding it, I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah, no.
Basically.
No. Fair enough. And then you, the way you got into Ronnies is through your aunt Adele.
Yeah, but she's my mum's cousin.
Adele Hartley, who's a
legend.
Piano tuner. Yeah, she's fantastic. She's such a lovely person.
It's quite funny because you probably at that time had known her a lot more than me.
Oh right.
She's from near Accrington, which is next to where I'm from. So her mum is my granddad's sister. Right. But so even Accrington to Burnley, it's a bit of a distance. Because nobody goes any. If you have to travel further than 10 minutes, no one goes there. And but she'd moved to London when she was 16 anyway.
Right.
So long before I was born. So I'd probably only met her 3 times.
Right.
But weddings and funerals, basically.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That type of vibe. But I'd actually fallen down some stairs this time, and I was on crutches. I was off work, and my mum does a bit of work in London from time to time, and because I was doing the course, so my mum knew Adele's got 2 sisters who were both musicians, who both live in London as well. There's 3 of them. My mum said, "Well, why don't you come with me because you're off, and we'll see if they can find you anything. See." If they can give you any advice. I remember hopping down on my crutches, and we went to Adele's, and initially they got me some shadowing. One of her sisters, Moira, she plays cello, and she was doing West Side Story, The Crucible in Sheffield. So I got a couple of days on that, and then through somebody else, I managed to get one day at the Palladium on Cats, shadowing on that, which was, I wasn't really keen on theatre, but I quite enjoyed it when I got there. But I remember I come down and did the show, went straight back to Burnley. I've never felt as depressed in my life. I was at the London Palladium, and then next week I'm back
in Burnley.
It's a bit grim. Not all places, but some of it.
Well,
and then the next time I was actually in London, I just happened to let her know, and I just remember I was in the pub across from Big Ben. It's like there's a lot of Navy people going there. I don't know, but anyway, and she said, "Oh, I've got this number, Miles Ashton." She said, "Oh, I've got you another number for the Hippodrome. Would you want to go to Ronnie Scott's or the Hippodrome?" And I'd always wanted, because I knew she worked there.
Yeah.
I never knew really what it was like. I'm into my 60s history, and so I'm well into that. So I'd heard of it. I thought, Ronnie Scott's. It's another moment. Like, if I'd have chosen the other one,
right,
I probably won't have been sat here as well.
Yeah, probably, because you would have started working with Danny, I suppose.
Yeah. But I've never met him, so I don't know if...
Yeah. No, he's I even to him I owe a lot. When I started at Ronnies, it was sound checks, salsa, Ruby sings, these sorts of things, and he, after I think it was 2010, 2011, I worked there. He offered me a full-time position, which was really good. I think how it kind of transpired is that. Everybody, because at that stage there were only 5 of us.
Quite small.
Yeah, and the other guys were busy. I think Miles did a lot of the Colosseum stuff, and Tim had a few things, and Shahan had a bunch of things going on. So it was harder to fill those shifts, and so he offered me a full-time position, which I then took, and ended up cutting my teeth properly You know,
In.
had a good time there, and decided I'm not really a full-time guy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's even if I like what I'm doing, it's hard to
It becomes monotonous,
keep the
doesn't it?
enthusiasm.
That's the best bit of
alive.
our job. You might do a 20-hour day, but then you might be off for 3 days. I like
True, and you'll be in different places all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just come back from Turkey. We did with Simande
that. Oh, right, yeah.
a gig in Babylon in Istanbul.
How was that?
Really good,
Cool.
really good show, fantastic, sold out, young crowd as well, and they knew all the songs, jumping up and down. It was very pumping.
Oh,
It
nice.
was really, really good. They did like a 2-hour set, and it was fantastic. Yeah, really good. So I mean, yeah, we get the opportunities to do that.
Yeah,
go-
I've set speakers up in Queen Victoria's bedroom in Kensington Palace, and it's like
Oh right.
probably the only lad from Burnley who's ever been in Queen Victoria's bedroom.
Well, I've never been there.
I don't know.
Brilliant.
It's just some of the random places you get to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, we get to see insides of museums and hotels
Yeah,
and things.
just-
Get to go places where other people will never
Yeah,
go.
even the ship ones at the back of beyond are quite interesting. Usually, it's like, what am I doing here?
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean
that.
that's kind of what this whole thing is about, for us getting to know each other better.
Yeah.
And also share some fun stories, and you know, because not everybody that enjoys music or go to gigs really knows what goes on behind the scenes and the amount of work that goes into it, and you know the I suppose the stresses and the pressures that we ourselves fall under sometimes. So it's just maybe to humanize us a little bit more.
Yeah, we're not that.
We're
bad.
not just the sound guy.
Yeah,
You know. So
I
yeah,
like the name. It's very- yeah.
Yeah, no. Right, and then you got in touch with Miles.
Yeah, I remember he said, "Can you come tomorrow?" I remember, and it was you actually, which is quite funny. But it was me and another lad actually. I've kind of written the other lad out of the story in my head, but there was 2 of us who came that day. But luckily for me, the SSL came that morning, and you were all trying to learn it. The guy from SL was in, and like they had a gig to set up, and I think is it Joe Lovano?
Oh yeah, the sax player.
That was the sax player. It was
Yeah.
really good. But
He's fantastic.
Yeah. I remember I loved the gig. I was like, wow, Ronnie Scott's, and I loved the gig. But I remember you were so busy because you were being. I think Tim was there. Miles wasn't there. Tim, Shahan, you, and you're all trying to learn that. I remember you saying, "Can you try and start?" So, which is quite unusual. I remember marking the drum kit. But what's the other important point is the lad who was with us was basically on his phone the whole time. And I remember I took my jumper off because I was sweating because I put a bit of grafting because obviously you're keen, which I still do though.
Yeah,
I do
no,
graft.
you have to.
And I remember Tim saying, "Oh, you've took your jumper off," and laughing. And then at the end of it, he said, "Can you come back?" I said, "Well, I live 250 miles away." And he's like, "Oh, but if you could ever come back." Because I think at that time, there's a lot of people. Gareth was on tour. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, Gareth was with Jack Garrett at that stage.
Yeah. So I probably only had about. I probably got more work in that first month and a half than I get now.
ever.
Yeah, it was just one of them. And I went back home and I said, "Oh, I've been offered a bit of an opportunity." And my mum said, "Well, we've just got to do it." And she helped me get a loan
Oh, that's
to move
very
down.
nice.
So, which I know without my mum, I'd have been absolutely screwed. But I mean, I'd have just spunked the loan. So she actually took the money off me and paid me a wage. So I was skimping and scraping. But that enabled me to. I was at Ronnie's nearly every day, which I was very lucky because most people can't do that. But I remember before, I must have been there 3-4 months, not earned any money yet. And I was near the end of this money, thinking, shit, what have I done? What have I done with my life? And then luckily I started doing some late shows. And then that just kind of snowballed. Similar situation in NYJO, they couldn't get anyone. And Miles asked me if I wanted to do a NYJO. It was in some posh school in Ipswich, I think, the first one.
I think that might have been with me as well.
And it was with Barry, my first one.
Oh, right.
Definitely with Barry, yeah.
Oh, that must have been a joy.
It was a bit stressful because Barry was not a sound engineer as well. So it was like, I
This
thought
is all
I'd just
on
be
you.
going along. And that it's like, wow, this is like the deep end now.
Absolutely. I think that's sometimes the best way.
Yeah,
to do
no,
it.
definitely.
You know, there's a lot to be said about putting yourself in a difficult position and kind of seeing what you're worth. You know?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah,
Even just proving it to yourself. Yeah, there's I mean, just an example which is not so much related to sound as when I learned to drive trucks, articulated trucks. My boss in America basically just said, "Have a look. It's got
go and get in that.
18 gears. This is how you flip from this to that." Because you go through 9 and then you flip the trigger and then you go back to 1, but that's 10.
Oh, that's 10.
And then you go through and he's like, "Go and get some stuff from the field. There you go." And that was how I fucking learned to drive trucks, mate.
Fucking hell. At least it's open.
Yeah. But I mean, in America, the problem is that in the sort of in the rural areas next to the roads are kind of built up, and then there's these gullies right next to the road. So you don't want to go off the road with one of those because you'll flip a truck over.
Yeah, you're fucked.
But yeah, it's definitely taking the easy road is not going to get you anywhere ever.
No. Well, I met that particular show as well. They had a house guy, and because they decided to have a school, the school band played first, which was nothing to do, and he just fucked off. So I was like,
you had to do the school
doing
band
this
as well,
which was completely different. I had to re-put new microphones. They played in front of the stage, in front of the PA as well. I remember, because I was very green. Like one of my first, so I think I did an all right job. Barry told me I did anyway. I don't know if he was just massaging my ego. But,
no, I don't think he would.
But no, he's very straight talking.
But I mean, a testament to you is you're still here. You know,
yeah.
And, you've shown your abilities and your skills. You've become part of the team, which is not everybody lasts.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just showing grit, getting through it, and like I always say, it's not having your way all the time, but it's about making do with what you got and making that a success.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's most about, I've heard Miles say, it's attitude is the main. You could be the best sound engineer in the world, but if you're a knobhead, eventually people are just not gonna.
Absolutely.
And you can learn. You do learn that's the only way to learn, isn't it?
100%.
I remember I did a gig upstairs. I was shadowing Shahan. It was a Cuban night. And all of a sudden the monitor stopped working. And I was thinking, shit. So I'm looking at the desk, and all it was, he stood on the XLR and put it out. But it's kind of something that they don't teach you in live at college. It's just, they don't really, the real life scenarios of what, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I was thinking it was probably going to be some technical problem. It's just so simple as someone had stood on the cable and pulled it out of the monitor. And I remember that really struck me, and that stays in there. And first thing I check. Yeah. And I think you do learn better on the job. And like 100%. You say, if you get stuck in and you're a nice guy, I think hopefully that's what I do. And you seem to be.
No, absolutely.
You'll get more work.
But also to learn not to panic in that moment
as well.
Is a big thing, and I've seen people panic. Good engineers panic, and then they just turn into zombies.
Yeah,
you're like, just a second, take a breath, step back, think about this. And I mean, I suppose in smaller venues, you can even mute something if you're getting feedback of something.
Yeah.
Unless it's a vocal mic. Which is more than likely the culprit of the feedback, but you can mute it for a second and stop that loop, and then kind of figure it out. But you can get away with things being acoustic for a second.
Particularly smaller stuff.
Yeah, it's but yeah, it's also sometimes artists don't quite get that if you point a microphone right into a monitor, it's gonna feed back.
Yeah.
So I've been dealing with that the last 2 days with a fairly known soul singer who's getting on a bit, but
I think
whenever he dances, the mic goes down. And whoop,
I think the older guys, they didn't have monitors, did they? I think.
Well, I mean, he's
kinda,
not.
how old is he?
He's not that old. He's
Right.
66. He's not that old.
Cool.
Right. So he's come up through the, through the ranks.
Yeah.
And he would have had these things. Like you're saying, the older guys that don't use monitors. John Mayer.
Oh god.
Right. He's fantastic. He's amazing. But he has his monitor pointed outwards.
Yeah.
Have you done
I
that?
did it last year.
Yeah.
Legend.
It's a bit frightening.
Yeah. Oh god, it's
And it's loud.
Oh god, it's loud.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose he still has a monitor.
Yeah,
Whereas
well-
other people, who was it that
He
told me about this?
I think they just take out all the low and the high. It's just the mid, and the high mid, and because he's
Some
more or less
presence.
he's more or less deaf. So
Yeah.
I think so. It's kind of like face. He's getting a lot of it.
Yeah,
He's 85 or something.
yeah, fantastic guy though. Really lovely,
Yeah.
lovely person.
It's from up my way, actually.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's unusual for
He
a blues
started
singer.
the Blues Breakers, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyone was in the blues. Clapton.
Right.
I think what's his Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac, the good incarnation. There was Mick Taylor who ended up in the Stones. Yeah, anyone was in the Blues Breakers.
Oh right. So it's kind of like a NYJO school for blues players.
Yeah, kind of. I think the early '60s, because it's really weird that there was a big blues boom in Britain, particularly like Mick Jagger. However, he wants to portray himself. He went to the same uni as JFK. He went to the London School of Economics, and how they all connected with this American blues music with these. Obviously,
Well,
people going. It's quite strange, but
It is a music that moves you.
yeah, no, definitely, yeah. And it doesn't. You don't have to be from that position to sing it, as we've found out. But I always found it amazing, particularly in England, how there were so many blues bands. We essentially sold America back their own music.
Well,
They
Why not?
They are a bit daft. But I've read stories. The Beatles and the Stones, they all went out and they couldn't believe how unhip that's their word, not mine. The American kids were, because they were all listening to like Bobby V and all this very sweet early
right.
60s music, and the Stones, and they'd never heard
Like
these.
the
They were
Beach Boys
doing
and-
covers. Yeah, the Stones were primarily a cover band when they started, and
Oh really?
the Americans were just going mental for it.
Fantastic.
But the records had come out 2-3 years previous,
Right.
which I found pretty.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, what were you? You said when you wanted to start recording, you bought this 8-track, and that was the bug that bit you.
Yeah, but
that-
maybe not as much as it was more in my head. I met that book I mentioned earlier, Revolution in the Head. They were basically talking about how they recorded Strawberry Fields, and because it's actually 2 separate takes, a week apart, completely different keys, different tempos, and apparently John Lennon said they were. So the first version was flute and quite sparse. The second version had brass and cellos, and he went, "I want the first half for the first one, and the second half for the second one, and put them together." And obviously, that'd be a piece of piss now in Pro Tools. But
Yeah.
then they had 4-track tape, and Jeff Emerick and George Martin managed to realise that if you sped one up, slowed one down,
You can get them in time.
they were in the
tempo.
same key. It's like you can barely hear the edit. I've read George Martin said it cringes every time that edit.
because he knows where it
Yeah,
is.
but I actually, if you listen, it's the second chorus it's right on the strawberry, John Lennon's voice. But I remember I just became fascinated reading, and that's what I wanted to do. But it was this really primitive 8-track. I remember I actually tried to get into a course in Burnley, and they did and he's like, "What do you use?" And I'm like, "This 8-track," and he was looking at me like, weirdo, because I didn't really know I'd never heard of Pro Tools, Logic, and that sort of stuff, and he was just like looking at me a bit weird. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But yeah, so I remember, and the Smiths. I'm a massive fan of the Smiths. Johnny Marr's my favourite guitarist, and
Yeah.
he likes to bring like a Phil Spector wall of sound, but with guitars rather than multi. And there's another book called The Songs That Save Your Life, which it took the Beatles book. Basically, this guy just copied it, but did it to the Smith songs,
Okay.
and that's quite technical. How Soon Is Now they created the tremolo at the beginning was they DI'd just one single DI, and then they reamped it through 4 Fender Twins, and to get it in sync, they had to stop the recording like every 7-8 seconds because of the tremolos. And it's a 7-minute song.
Damn.
So
it's like stop and start.
And it took them. I mean, nowadays in Pro Tools you do that straight away as well. And I just kind of become fascinated with. And then I started reading everything like Phil Spector. I know he's a bit of a. Well, he's a murderer and he's in prison for murder at the minute, but I try and the art from the person.
Yeah,
that's my. I really got into him. All his.
I think sometimes you
stuff.
have to do that because I mean to be an artist already, you know, you a bit more maybe vulnerable. You're a bit more sensitive. You've got a bit, you know, not your run of the mill kind of guy.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be able to create not just musicians but all artists, you know, painters, poets. They kind of
some kind of spectrum.
Drag the beauty or the ugliness out of situations, and they put it in a way that you're like, I get that.
Yeah,
I can feel what you felt.
And it's not, you don't, like you said, it's not the person. I mean, Phil Spector, he married the lead singer of the Ronnies, and he used to lock her in his house. He wouldn't let her leave. If he ever let her leave, he brought a life-size mannequin dressed in his suits he'd wear with a little wig that looked like it, and she had to put that in the front seat of a car driving around LA. And then he ended up shooting an actress dead. It was a proper psycho, but he produced Be My Baby, River Deep Mountain High. You've Lost That Love Feeling, which I think the most played song ever on the radio. So it's pretty genius, but I think he did a lot of he did the Let It Be album for the Beatles. Did a lot of John Lennon stuff. He pulled a gun on John Lennon, actually. He was only about 5'4". He was
small man syndrome.
Yeah, probably the most severe case of small man syndrome you've ever seen.
Wow.
But I got into him. 60s stuff, More Time, Stax Records, how it was recorded. That's why I just became fascinated. Yeah. I still am. I'm forever watching videos on.
Yeah. Do you ever watch some of the Produce Like a Pro? Warren Hewitt.
I watched one on the way over. I watched the interview in Bob Clear Mountain.
Right.
I was watching it on the train. I really like Warren Hewitt.
Yeah, he's very eloquent and he explains things really well and he's so knowledgeable.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of stumbled onto him when I was teaching at BIM because I know Logic and Pro Tools, but I always, I need to provide some materials for the pupils.
He does multi-tracks and stuff.
Yeah. Not just that, like explaining things in shorter sort of videos, like because I can explain what an EQ is or how a compressor works or these sorts of things, but then you like, here is extra links to how these things work. Go and do your study on your own, which of course none of them ever did.
Yeah, no. I was quite geeky in that. At school, I was never into doing. When I did my course, we got basically they've been doing the same course for 25 years, so anything they'd collected, probably similar, we'd get and I'd read it all. Yeah. But I'd kind of memorise. It's quite weird subject sound because you can. I remember I was doing the Pro Tools exams, but I didn't have Pro Tools at the time, so I was learning where to click the mouse or what to press, but without using it. So you have to. So I remember learning about graphic EQs and stuff, but not actually having it to. And then. But it always stuck in the back of my mind, and when you get to that situation, it's like, oh, yeah, this is what I was reading about, and it does help. But it is a real hands-on subject, isn't it? It
is. But I mean, what you did is, once it's in the bank there, you can call upon it whenever you want. Yeah, I was...
Not in all situations, but...
No. I mean, every kind of situation calls for its own remedy.
Yeah.
But if you've got the basics and you know how to do things, then you've got... knowledge of the workflow and you can kind of still your mind for a second and just work things out.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's the most obvious thing you don't... I mean, one thing that really sticks to mind is I was doing I used to work at Grace Bar, which is like... They had four vocalists, wireless. They'd get on the bar, all that Coyote Ugly thing. And all the trendy thing now is having the sax player playing along with the DJ.
Yeah,
we'd started and the sax player was late and he turned up and he used to have this little wireless clip on and he started and I was like, wow, I'm getting no level from this. And I was like, again and again, it started to go. So I'm pulling it back and he's like, what's going on? I can't hear myself. I'm like, we were flummoxed for 2 sets. What was happening? Because I tested the microphone. The microphone was totally fine working. And what had happened, because he was in a rush, he he had some earplugs in this little rubber case. And because he was rushing, he dropped the rubber case into the bell of his sax, and it had gone right in and jammed. So he
couldn't get in.
He was blowing into a
Well, I mean, he
wall.
really should have known that his saxophone isn't producing.
Yeah, you'd have thought
it's not you.
You'd have thought
it's
that
the saxophone that's not making the sound.
You'd have thought that, wouldn't you? And then he said, "Oh, I'm really sorry," and we started laughing. Yeah. But I remember I was telling this story to Alex Garnett, who's the host on Mondays and Tuesdays at Ronnies, and he said he did a repair on somebody's sax. They did a gig and they ring him up going absolutely mental, saying, "What have you done to my sax? I can't do anything for it." And Alex is like talking to him and trying to establish what the problem was. And then the guy at the end said, "To make matters worse as well, I forgot my saxophone strap." And what had happened, he dropped the strap down the bell of his sax and he had the exact... It's like, wow.
Yeah, people love to point fingers.
Yeah.
It's never their fault. Never.
Yeah. But it's just that stuff like that. It's like sometimes it's just the crazy stuff you have absolutely no control of.
The thing you don't think about.
But they'll still blame us. So.
Yeah, it's another thing that I kind of touch on, which I don't know. Maybe I should think about approaching people or institutions that do sound engineering courses, especially live engineering courses, to just, even if it's like a one lesson thing on how to deal with people and deal with musicians.
Yeah.
It's not always just the musicians. Sometimes it's the punters.
Yeah.
That don't really exactly know what they're talking about. But they want to put their 2 cents in there.
Some people are just...
and then some people are just mean for no reason.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I had this on Wednesday night, this woman come to me and she said, "I just felt that I needed to tell you that the sound was really awful. It was really bad." And I'm like, "Okay, what was wrong with the sound?" She's like, "No, the band was great and the sound was fantastic, but I couldn't hear the singer." I said, "Okay, where were you sat?" And she's like, "Over there." I said, "Behind you." And I could hear him quite clearly.
Yeah.
Even though it was loud. Yes, it was loud. There's 9 of them on stage. And there's a lot of sound coming from stage.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but it was just really awful. It was just really bad. I'm like, okay. And then she complained about her steak knife not being right. And I'm like, okay, you're one of those.
The classic.
You're one of those. Yeah, you just want to complain.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, I think if people are just in general try to be a little bit nicer to each other, I think we'd probably get a lot further
in any walk of life.
Absolutely everything. And I think that was, what the thing for me about social media was very off-putting. I'd taken a long break from any kind of social media because there was a lot of negativity going on. A lot of if people can just chill out for a second sometimes and try and be nice, maybe understand where somebody else is coming from.
Well, I've kind of got to the opinion now. It's probably the world 70-30 in the favour of the cunts, and I don't think there's anything. I
would probably rank them a bit higher, but
yeah. I mean, look at this election. Boris Johnson's the biggest liar. He's an absolute horrible person, a complete twat, and he's still he'll walk this election next week. And it's just like, what is wrong? What is wrong with people wanting? And some of the stuff I've seen, like, why should we pay 2% more tax when somebody's lazy and when people are unfit to work? And it drives me mad.
It is.
I think the world's full of twats.
Yeah. But I mean, we can be the change that we want to see.
Yeah.
I try and do that. I've definitely. I think it's another reason why I started this thing. Not just maybe it's a selfish reason, not just to get to know everybody else better, all my friends and colleagues, and broadcast you all to the world, because, like I've said time and time again, I know so many awesome people and great engineers, great musicians. I mean, world-class people.
Yeah.
And nobody, well, apart from outside of our group, other people don't know you. They don't know Miles, they don't know Tim, they don't know these people. So if I can look here, I know some awesome people. Right. So what I was saying, the reason why I started the podcast is for me to maybe learn more and grow and try and become a better person, because it's a everyday thing, to try and better ourselves and become. And
good bit of therapy for you as well.
That it is,
and
yeah.
You get to get your rants out.
That's it. Get the rants out. Get the and then also take a load of everybody else's mind. Let them rant at me for a bit.
I feel cleansed.
Yeah, fantastic. So it's a good thing. Then, so what were you doing? What were you doing before you were just doing some odd jobs here and there?
Well, once I started playing guitar, I was about 15. I kind of really got into music, but obviously I just started. I was never good enough. So I was quite good at school, but by 15, 16, I just had enough. I got mugged on the way home I was watching football at night. I was walking home and 3 lads ran over, and one of them knocked me out with a can of Carling. I was 15, they were in the 20s, and they robbed my trainers and my hat. Good old little Burnley trick. And my mum said I've never been the same since then, but I think that's nonsense, because she wanted me to go to sixth form, uni, and all that. But I knew deep down I was never going to do that. I think she just blames that. But that were kind of I got £1,000 compensation for that, and I got it at 16, and £1,000 at 16.
Yeah, that's
you're a king.
What you gonna?
Because you can't go out and drink. You can get some. I was like a king for like 3 months.
Nice.
Clothes. All my mates were like leeching on, but that was just the point. I was meant to start sixth form, and I just didn't. I'd just gone off the rails a bit. So I thought, well, I kind of don't know what I want to do yet. So I didn't want to. I'd seen a lot of people make the mistakes of, oh, I'm going to do this, and then getting like 2-3 years down the line and like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. So I just got a shit job basically, because I thought, you can't get worse than the shit job. Where you're going to go from there?
It's a good thing to kind of shake you.
Unfortunately for me, I managed to get stuck in the shit job for 7 years, which I wasn't banking on. Which is, looking back, the laughs you have in a warehouse, particularly in like working class town, the characters you meet, the stories. I
bet
it's funny.
Can you tell me about that guy who literally painted himself into a corner? Oh no, that wasn't you.
That wasn't me. No,
somebody told me the story. He was working in a warehouse, and there were some really not fully awake people there.
Yeah. This
guy, they had to paint the storeroom, and this guy literally painted himself, because they had to paint the floor, and he literally painted himself into the corner.
Back.
Yeah, and he was stuck there, and everybody was just laughing at him.
These lords, like, some of the tales. One that springs to mind is they got a forklift driver in for the day to help, and he'd had to change the battery, so he'd got some bit of acid on his hands, and it's fine on your hands, but he decided to go for a piss without washing his hands, and we just heard this screaming, and and I remember the first day about it, what's going on? It's my dick, and go on, show me. He's like, no, he refused to show anyone his dick, so he ended up having to take a picture of it, showing the first day. The first day is like, we're gonna have to go to hospital
right quick.
Lords like that.
Oh my lord!
I remember
talking about burning your private.
There were 2 guys here. One of the lads used to shave the older guy's hair, so he didn't have to pay for a haircut, and he'd let it go quite a bit, and they'd snuck off into the corner. They were doing it, and the supervisor discovered him. Get back to it, but he had half a hairdo, and he made him do like 3 hours. He was going mental. He just had half an hairdo.
That's brilliant.
At the time, I hate it. It's 40 hours a week. It's just depressing. £6.50 an hour, and you work harder than any other job, I think. But then people, if that's some of them, I remember a guy giving me some grief before. He said, "You've got brains. What you're doing? If I had brains, I'd be doing something." He like proper went at me. You make me sick. I'd do anything, because I was just using it as a stopgap. But them people who were just unfortunately not the brightest, and that's their lot. I have a lot of respect for them.
Good Will Hunting speech there.
Yeah, no, it's a bit deep, but
that's perfect. It's perfect.
He led. I don't think he was doing it to inspire me. Like he was bitter. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, unfortunately.
But I took it the same way.
Yeah. Well, you got out, and here you are, which is a good thing. And you've recently you were involved in the recording of a new NYJO album.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, it was Miles. We got to 2 days in Air Studios, which was amazing.
Very nice.
Not the big. It was Studio 2, which is slightly smaller, but still, it's got a Neve desk,
Very
which
nice.
was commissioned for George Martin. That Rupert Neve had actually added some Focusrite pre's as well, which they're the only ones in the world, which is pretty. Like the list of people who recorded through that desk, so I loved that.
Nice. Yeah,
And
you can feel the history.
I've been editing a couple of the songs in Pro Tools, ready for Miles's mixing them. So which
Great,
that was what I was always into. I'm still fascinated by the studio.
Yeah.
But I've grown to love live a lot more than I think it's because it's a lot more stressful, isn't it? Well, I suppose if you have a bad session, you could get that, but I was quite shy before I moved to London, and then particularly Ronnies because we're the MC, and if it goes wrong, it's literally on you. But once you get over that, it's enjoyable. Like you said earlier, there's nothing good than doing a good gig.
Yeah,
it's real buzz. People saying you've done a good job and thanking you. It's rewarding.
It is very rewarding. Yeah, the MCing is funny.
I hate it.
You say
I'm getting better, but I hate it.
Say some funny things sometimes, not intentional. I called an artist. I was introducing her, and I was trying to be complimentative, and I said, "So here she is, the woman of tonight." And as soon as I said that, the entire club burst out in laughter, and I'm like, "No. You don't understand. That's not what I meant. I meant she's the star. She's the woman of tonight.
She's on tonight, yeah.
She's the
Woman
star.
of the night.
Here she is." And I haven't worked with her since.
Yeah.
She didn't take kindly to that. And in my defense, I was trying to big her up. I was trying to give her a compliment.
Well, that's why I actually I've got like a script on my phone.
I had to
change the names
well.
and I stick by that. And,
and then
I'll throw in an odd one. I don't want to make it sound monotonic and robotic, but I mean, with my accent, you're probably going to have to subtitle this video. But,
no, man, you're perfectly fine. Then, so you have you got any bands that you're working with at present?
Not
someone you go out on the road with?
No, not as much as I want to. I'm kind of. That's what was the aim after Ronnies, but I kind of settled down with my. Well, I wouldn't say got stuck. She'll probably listen to this, so I've got to be complimentary. I've settled down with my girlfriend now. I kind of like just working in London. I mean, you go away with NYJO and a few other bands, but
yeah, touring is hard once you're not a single man anymore.
Yeah,
and especially once you start having a family, it's really difficult because, I mean, I personally. I don't like to be away from my daughter for that.
Yeah, no, I can understand.
It's and I don't really see why I would have to go away. I've got a few things here that are keeping me ticking over, and I'm content with it. I'm not chasing a dream. I'm not. I mean, if I get to do the bigger gigs, I'm very happy for them. I mean, with Simanda, I've done some quite big gigs, which is, it's been a blessing. But I'm not chasing after that. I'm not trying to be the rock star engineer.
Yeah.
I did a few of those things. I taking on an artist and being paid shit money and, investing a lot of time and energy and finally doing yourself in.
Okay,
and then at the end, you just get shafted.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal.
Yeah.
Just because, you don't see eye to eye with the manager or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's 18 months of your life where, or 2 years that's gone. And you kind of feel like, well, what was the point of this? Because I missed out. I prioritized this and now I've missed out on a lot of other things. And in the process kind of screwed myself financially by taking a gig that pays £100 a day.
Yeah.
And then, doing that for the majority of your year, where you could have had even £120 a day at home and being at home and not having to travel and sleep in Best Westerns or sometimes sleeping in a flat on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, things like
That's
that.
not for me. But I remember when I was at college, the people were asking the instructor how you get on, and he's kind of his way in. He was a professional before he went into teaching, and he just started engineering his mate's band, who ended up being Doves, who were quite a big late 90s, early 2000s. And from there, his other mate's band were Elbow. They were still really quite big. So there is that bit of luck. And they did try and get us in other ways. What's the place called in Hayward? Wigwam Acoustics.
Yes.
That was another one. I got down, 50 of us went for the job, and I got down to the final 3 because they were impressed that I was the only person who'd done the full course with a full-time job. But I think my knowledge was just let me down at the last minute and experience.
Okay.
But it is basic advice for find a band, but you kind of
I mean, like I said, yeah. When you're young and when you're a single guy, or when you've got a girlfriend or a wife that's got their own thing, and you can kind of go off and do your thing. But once you start settling down a bit,
Well,
if you haven't done that thing, then it's, I mean, it's up to you, really.
Yeah. But the thing I think of now as well is, say I went away for 6 months, did well, you're not necessarily got the stuff when you come back, and exactly. I've got bills to pay, so
that's it, man.
You kind of, but I still think this job, I'm kind of, I think like any other career, you'd have goals. I got the job, I want to be manager, I want to be all that nonsense. But this, I'm kind of like, still like riding a wave, and like,
it's great.
Don't know where it's going to take.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it's going to take. I'd have never thought I'd be sat here doing this working at Ronnie Scott's 5 years ago. I'd have probably laughed at you.
Yeah, man.
So that's the good thing about this job. You don't know where you're going to end up.
And yeah, just, being kind of, I think also people tend to chase the future a lot rather than just being in the now.
Get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Could fall in front of an articulator lorry on a bike going under it.
Yeah, right. And then maybe just not miss the wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's you definitely don't want to find yourself in that position. It's it's a lot of fun, man. This is it's a good job, and you've got a gig today, which yesterday you had some trouble.
Yeah, it was the reverb pedal of the bass player, and it was fine in sound check, but as the gig started, he engaged it, and there was just this
noise.
But I'd muted it. It wasn't in the PA.
Yeah,
because I'd DI'd the and by unusually for Ronnies, the audience was stood up, and the main guy whose gig it was turned around and said, "Can we sort the buzz?" Cocky or other colour ran on, and we'd established it with this pedal. But then a member of the audience decided to turn around and shout at me, "Just turn it off!" And I was like, and then somebody else turned around and, "Why don't you just run it through the Leslie speaker?" When they think they know what they're on about, when we don't have a Rhodes speaker. We don't have a Rhodes speaker, and it's a bit of a beef, which the audience, it literally coming from the stage, nothing to do with what I was doing.
I know it is. Sometimes you get because you're the first point of contact for all the noise that's coming from the stage, so everybody's gonna.
I think they see Mark. I had a gig. I did a NYJO gig in a Buxton Festival, and I'd done the previous year. We were in a tent, really successful gig. So nearly enough everyone who went to that came to the second year. But they'd reopened this big like Victorian dome. It's quite a nice place, Buxton. It's like an old-fashioned park building, but it's just glass. Just like a greenhouse. And NYJO, there's 24 musicians, they're loud. And we did the sound check, and I literally just went every single mic down, apart from the vocal when they come on and off. And as soon as we started, the audience were just on me. It's too loud, because they see the microphones. They automatically think someone actually asked for the money back in the first song, which was I thought was quite special. I bet that's not happened that many times.
I've had that happen to me once.
It's nothing. And then when they come over, and I showed, there was this really nice lady. I was here last year, it was brilliant. I said, well, that was me. And she's like, well, what is it? I said, this room is not compatible to a 24-piece jazz big band. And I said, look at the faders and everything. And then once they saw that, she went, oh, right, I'd have never have thought that. And once you showed them, they were fine, but they just automatically on your case.
Yeah.
So you have a magic one where you can just, natural acoustic you can just turn down.
That'd be great, right?
Yeah,
just have some panels come out of the glass or something.
Harry Potter, the biggest sound engineer in the world.
Yeah, I had doing the Blues Explosion in where was it? In Rye, in a massive church, and
I was in Rye in the church the other week.
Yeah.
Might be the same place.
maybe it was on top of the hill. This is last year, and yeah, the acoustics in there, and then the Blues Explosion.
Yeah,
they're a loud band.
Yeah.
And the sound was fine. It was great. Everything was balanced. Everything was beautiful, but it was just too loud because the crowd were the majority of older people.
Yeah.
And the one guy came up to me and was like, "It's too loud." I said, "Well, there's not really much I can do about that. It's the acoustics in here, and I have to have it at a certain level because we have a certain amount of electronics.
Yeah.
We've got keyboards and we've got these sorts of things. So some of it needs to be pushed up to this level just to get in line with the trombone and the trumpet and the saxophone, which are acoustically on their own quite loud instruments. Plus we have 2 guitarists, and it's a blues band, right? And it's like, oh, well, this is unacceptable. I'm going to ask for my money back as well. It's, you're entitled to ask for your money back.
Yeah.
There's not much I can do about that. But everybody else was really complimentary.
You can't please everyone.
No, you
Everyone's
can't.
got different thresholds of loudness or what they're into.
But I mean, if you know that's what you are, then why go to a gig, a blues gig in a church?
Yeah, no, I get it. It's like they're trying to ban applause. I've spoke about this because it might be insensitive people with that hearing.
I mean, I can kind of understand that people they're sensitive to noises and these sorts of things, but then you can't tell everybody that because there's one person that's sensitive. Now all of a sudden everybody has to tailor their lives to this guy.
Yeah.
Right. What if I just go like, well, I'll only accept heavy metal music anywhere I go.
Yeah.
And everybody has to tailor to me. It's just a simple example, but it's.
But if you're sensitive, what kind of show are you going to go and see if clapping's too loud?
Exactly.
It's just,
yeah, because everything's going to be louder than clapping.
It's unfortunate.
I wonder if it's some sort of PTSD thing or something. Where, like,
well, I could understand
bombs
that.
everywhere.
Yeah. I was watching a program the other day where a guy had been in World War One, and when they turn in his care home, sometimes they turn the light does that,
strobes,
and he's jumping out of bed in total still shock after. I think he's dead now. It was from about 10 years ago, but just how that's set. But that's lighting. You can't.
Yeah, you can't really do anything.
But I'm not bothered about lighting anyway. It sounds the.
Sounds the way. Sounds the way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think we can wrap that up here. Thank you very much for coming.
I've enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, brother. And yeah, well, you've got a gig. You've got a sound check at 3:00.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Cool. And I got a few things, and then off to Boysdale. So yeah, thank you again for coming, and have a good day.
Anytime you too.
Well, there we have it, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I have. It was a lot of fun talking to Steve. You can catch him on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The links that I will be providing. Same with me. I have started a Patreon page, so if you like what you see or hear and you want to hear more and you want to support me, go to patreon.com/HeySoundGuy, and there you can make one-off donations or a monthly thing. If you like what you see, like, share, subscribe, do what you got to do. Until next time, thank you very much. Goodbye.